Hello, and welcome back to LIT, Lisa's Initial Thoughts. Today I want to talk about the Good Shepherd. And I want to read John 10, verses 11 through 16, and they read, I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. But he that is a hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth, and the wolf catches them, and scatters the sheep. The hireling fleeth because he is a hireling, and careth not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. And the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep, and other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Amen. You know, when I think about a shepherd, I think about David. David had a big task out there in let's see where that's found. 1 Samuel 17 verses 34 to 37. David is able to tell Saul that he can help him with this uncircumcised giant because he has just taken down a bear and a lion. So David is actually, he goes out to his father sends him over to the where they're in war, and he takes food. And while he's there, he finds that Saul is very distressed because this giant Goliath seems to be truly gaining ground, and they just don't know what to do with this giant at this point. So David says, I got this. So David tells him about how he took down a bear, took down a lion, and that he can take down this uncircumcised giant. And this was a bold move on David's part, taking down the lion and the bear, because he had to truly trust God. And he trusts God to deliver him, because he declares, God delivered me, when he's talking to Saul. So with boldness, he can say to him, I can take down this giant, like God gave me the ability to take down the lion and the bear. Now I gotta be honest with you. Personally, if it was me, I think that bear and lion would have probably just had some lamb chops, because I don't know whether or not I'd have been able to do that. But when you have a relationship with God, you can take an impossible task and do the impossible, because when God works through us, he gives us the strength and all that we need to be able to be successful. Now, we know that taking down that bear, lion, and giant, it was actually God working through David to accomplish that. So, and that's why David says, no, God did this. And so I just wanted to say that when we have people that are, tall as giants, fierce as lions, strong as bears, that come up against them, we can turn them over to the shepherd, because this story from David lets us know that God has his children. He's got us, and he is able truly to deliver us out of that. Another story that I like to take a look at was Elisha. And that's found in 2 Kings 2:23 and 24. Elisha was on his way back from Jericho, going over to Bethel. And as he was traveling, these little kids ran out and they began to call him Baldhead. And they called him that twice. And Elisha turned around and he cursed them in the name of God. And then he went on and didn't bother with them. But the Bible tells us that she-bear came out and devoured those children. He killed all of them. It was like 28 to 30 kids. You can read it in 2 Kings. And so that brings me to a Hosea. Hosea 13:8. God says, I will defend them as a bear that is bereaved of her whelp, and devour them like lions. We have to be careful how we deal with people and how people deal with us, because sometimes people that profess to be saints aren't really saints either. God says, I will devour them for you. And that's what happened over here with Elisha. Those children came up against him, and Elisha didn't try to plot, didn't try to see how he could figure it out, didn't try to figure out how to deal with the children. He just simply cursed them in the name of the Lord and kept on moving. And God did what God did. And it's something how God used a she-bear, because he couldn't have used a human mother, because human mothers, we kill our children, hurt our children, throw our children away, and all manner of craziness that human mothers do to their children. But a bear, I don't care what part of the country you live in, what part of the world you live in, what language you speak, everybody can understand the language of a mother bear, and you don't bother her cubs. That is one thing that is across the board everywhere, is how a mother bear defends her cubs. The good shepherd is also a provider. He's a way maker. And Isaiah 9:6 tells us that he is a wonderful counselor, a mighty God, an everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. When Jesus saw a crowd of 5,000, he fed them with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Rained manna from heaven to feed those that were in the wilderness. He caused the deaf to hear, the blind to see. The lame will now walk. And how about us? He pays bills when we have no money, food on the table when the fridge is empty, gives money on time when we thought time was running out, because he's an on-time God. I had to throw that in there. God will also give comfort to those who are bereaved after the loss of a loved one. He gives joy in the midst of sadness. I'm talking about a good shepherd. I looked up a shepherd, and it says the eastern shepherd are always armed and are sometimes killed in defending their flock against wolves, leopards, and panthers, which infest the wilderness. The shepherd will take down the enemy for the sake of his sheep. All right now. So let's look at Matthew just really quickly. Matthew 11:27 says, all things are given over to Jesus from the Father. And I must make mention that all are welcomed by the Father and the Son. Jesus' death covered all who will come. Jesus says, I have other sheep alluring to the Gentiles in the ultimate universal scope of salvation via Christ's atoning blood. Everybody can be saved through Jesus if they want it. Jesus declares all things, all knowledge, all authority, the totality of all things that exist, and everything that was needed to carry out our salvation on his behalf. Thank you, Jesus. You know, Jesus says that we have a choice now whether or not we will come to him. He's not going to force us to come. Yes, he laid down his life, but the choice is still ours. Still ours, whether or not we want to choose life. Deuteronomy 30:19-20 says, I set before you life and death. Choose life. He tells us that there is a land that's waiting where Jacob, Isaac, and Abraham will reside. Saints of God, I would love to reside in that land, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, so that's a little bit about the shepherd. Now I want to talk, because I'm going to come back to the shepherd, but now I want to talk a little bit about the hireling, the one that is hired. In John 10, verses 12 and 13, they read, but he that is a hireling are not the shepherd's own. The sheep are not. See if the wolf come in and leaveth the sheep and fleeth, and the wolf catches them and scatters the sheep. Verse 13, the hireling fleeth because he is a hireling, and he is a hireling and careth not for the sheep, You know, to the one that is hired, it is just that it's a job. Some do work just for money. Some do work because they have to. Some work because they have to take over the family business, so they're forced to work. People work for all different reasons. But the one that is hired, it is just that. It's a job. But the one that is hiring for the job has invested interest in the job. So that's the difference between a hireling and a shepherd. The shepherd, he has invested interest in his flock. In the hour of danger, it distinguishes him from someone that is hired. Because where the hireling will run, the shepherd will stand fast and take care of his own and make sure that his own has made it safely to their arrival. And the hireling shepherd is the cowardly compromiser who gives way to instead of resisting. So let's go over and take a look at Ezekiel. Ezekiel 34:23, and it reads, "And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, and even my servant David." Wow, I'm getting tongue-tied, sorry. Let me read that again. "And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd." So see, David was a shepherd, but there was also a good shepherd over David. Yeah. So the flock includes both Jews and Gentiles. Jesus is the good shepherd, and we are his sheep. And where the shepherd goes, he leads his sheep, and the sheep do follow. The difference between someone that is hired and the owner, the one hired is just that, a job, where the owner takes care and has invested interest in what he has purchased. A shepherd's job can be challenging as he moves his sheep along, hoping and wanting a safe delivery, constantly moving forward all the way, always on the lookout. He can see danger even when the sheep can't. When they stop to rest, the sheep rest, but the shepherd never sleeps. He always stays guard and ready to deliver. The good shepherd is Jesus, and sometimes the shepherd will have hired hands. But the job is the shepherds to see them safely to their destination. Come on, saints. Jesus is moving us along, and sometimes we veer off course. Sometimes we even walk away. But the shepherd never ceases to try to corral us and get us back in line. Saints, the good shepherd, Jesus, is a good shepherd, and how he will defend, deliver, protect, lead, guide, love. He is a wonderful counselor, Prince of Peace, a mighty God. Saints of God, the list goes on and on. I never would get off of here talking about the goodness of God. But we can't overlook that he is a God that will also punish, and one day he will do that strange act. The Bible calls it a strange act in destroying what he has created. I pray that when the shepherd comes to claim his own, saints of God, that I'm out there along with the sheep. How about you? Saints of God, God is able to bring you out of the pit where your brothers have cast you and place you in a palace. He can cause hungry lions to fast until the morning, because joy cometh in the morning. He can cool down a fiery furnace where 3 went in and 4 came out. Talking about a good shepherd. Saints, right now our planet is in a little bit of upheaval. Mudslides unexpectedly. Meteorologists are warning of tornado hurricanes which bring about massive flooding. Seismologists are monitoring earthquakes happening in diverse places. Wars and rumors of wars. There's famine in the land. But always remember, the good shepherd is monitoring it all. He knows everything that is taking place. And he has promised, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. In all that you are going through, all that you will go through, always remember the good shepherd. Moses asked him, who shall I say has sent me? He says, tell him I am that I am. Saints of God, the good shepherd.